Now, tonight we're doing two things. We are, since I'm not going to go radio silent for a month, I am going to get back into the Thursday night subject, but we're going to take out some time first for the war. We have to. The main two pieces of information, everything in the war is going great, but Netanyahu explained from day one, there are no surprises. You go to war against this country and most countries, but certainly this kind of country, with that many weapons that they have, and with no morals, no scruples. And you know how we know they have no scruples? You know how we know? Because it never would occur to Jews to perpetrate a genocide. It never would. 3,000 years, we would never perpetrate a genocide. When people all over the world are accusing you of perpetrating a genocide, and you know that's not what we're doing, and you look at the other people in your orbit, are we perpetrating a genocide? No, we're not. So you know they're projecting what they would do. Otherwise, how do you come up with that? They project, and there's a lot of history to back this up. In 8 years, Iran and Iraq killed 500,000 of each other. As I was writing the other day, they were doing God's holy work on earth. And in 8 years, they killed 500,000 of each other, Iran and Iraq. And in Lebanon, their civil war, you saw, and what they do to each other is unspeakable. What they did on October 7, that was kid stuff compared to what they do to each other. I have seen videos of what they do to each other. And so Israel knew, Netanyahu and his advisors, everyone knew when we all, when we all said, what are they waiting for? When are they going to attack the nuclear? Why are they not? Israel knew when we do it, this is going to happen in return. We're going to be able to control a lot of it. We're going to knock down 90% of the missiles, but some will get through, and they're going to shoot ballistics, and they're going to kill people, and they're going to do damage. And when we hit a hospital, it's because we're aiming for the leaders of Hamas in the hospital, and the tunnel built right underneath the hospital for the command center. So we're aiming for the tunnels of Hamas and for the leaders of Hamas. And we wish to heaven that they would not use a hospital as their human shield. But we know when it comes to them, they will attack a hospital, even though they know affirmatively that there are no military targets in the hospital, near the hospital, or away from the hospital. In fact, one of the reasons Israel set up a hospital over there in the middle of nowhere is because there was a need, and it was meant as a hospital for the Negev and a research center. So they knew this was going to happen. So they didn't know when, and you always hope it won't happen, and you always hope that that'll be one of the missiles they shoot down. But 10% of the missiles will get through, because they just will. And so it's like all war. You see war movies. If you've never been to war, you see war movies. Americans are invading Omaha Beach on June 6, 1944, in the D-Day invasion. And the Germans are shooting and shooting and shooting, which that's what they have to do to protect themselves from the American invasion and the French and the British. So how is it that this guy dies and that guy dies and the guy in between the two of them doesn't get that? Because the bullet hits this one and the bullet hits that one and it misses the other guy. And they're not aiming for anybody, just shooting it indiscriminately. And they know a certain amount will get it. It's the hand of God, and it's so random. And that's war. War is random. So Netanyahu and his government, everybody knew this is what they're going to face. And so they waited till the last minute. And when they finally got to the last minute, they knew if they don't do it now, it is going to be so much worse. Because every single bomb that's hit Israel in the last 2 weeks, last week, would have had a nuclear warhead. So whatever it was, imagine if it had a nuclear warhead. So that's also part of it. So they've killed 24 people instead of 2,400,000. And whatever amount of damage. If they had nuclear warheads landing, that would be the end of the city of Tel Aviv. So they did what they had to do. And the British and the French and the Democrats, except for John Fetterman and Richard Torres, Democrat Party, they're all saying Israel should have waited. Sure, they should have waited. And when you're standing there, Mr. Congressman, Mr. Senator, and in front of your eyes, your wife is getting raped by an Arab, you'll just stay and you just wait, because Steve Witkoff is coming and will try to talk the guy into stopping halfway through the rape. Right? That's what you're going to do? You wait for Steve Witkoff. So Macron and Starmer and Ireland, Spain, all of these countries, Portugal and Italy, and everybody's got ideas. But when they're in danger, then they attack. And it was a hand of God. Thank God Almighty that Trump was elected. And thank God Almighty that he wasn't killed at that speech in Pennsylvania. Because he's not perfect. And he is so doggone frustrating. And I'm somebody that loves him. He is frustrating. But can you imagine, God forbid, Biden and Harris right now, or Harris. Biden wasn't there the last 4 years, we now know. But can you imagine Harris there? We've looked at the maps. You know, you can't bomb Iran. We've looked at the maps. And you imagine Harris there right now. You imagine right now Harris being asked questions, God forbid. And if the Democrats had 3 more seats in the Senate, you imagine what would be going on now? An embargo, and she did an embargo in Gaza. Can you imagine if they were embargoing Israel now? Halfway through, they've lost the advantage of the surprise. No one knew that they could take out the whole Iranian military in one evening. Now they've lost that surprise. They'll never get that one again. And that they could take out all of these nuclear sites. She would have stopped it right away. Embargo. We'll build a pier. I don't know what they'll do. And God forbid, by God's grace, Trump got elected, and he's so frustrating, but he got elected, and he didn't get killed. He's so frustrating. And now shows up at the G7, and the other G6 are sitting there waiting for him with a resolution they want. They want a resolution that calls for a permanent ceasefire in Iran and in Gaza. What did Trump do? We don't know everything that happened behind the scenes, but we know that within 24 hours, he said, au revoir, I'll be seeing you, Godspeed. And he just came back to America. Screw all of them. Just screw all of them. Let them stay in there and try to make a G6 economic conference without the United States. They can't. They have to go home. They have to go home. Without America, they can't do anything. So thank God. Now, we have lived through an extraordinary thing. And Thursday night is we learn the halakha of war. And what we have learned for the last year and a half on this very subject, about 75 classes, give or take so far, year and a half, is that you're not allowed in the first instance to start war. But if someone creates a Melchemet mitzvah, an obligatory war, the Torah says you not only are allowed to fight, but you must fight to kill. You must leave them one way out. Like if you imagine 4 walls, east, west, south, and north and south, you must give them one exit and allow them out. And then you go and kill everybody who did not leave. That's a Melchemet mitzvah. We learned it. And when is a war a commanded war? Even if it's against the 7 nations that are biblical, we don't know any. Nobody today can be affirmatively defined as, oh, you're an Ammonite, or a Moabite or a Girgashite or a Hittite or a Jebusite. We don't know who they are. So if you're fighting the 7 original nations that had to be displaced in order for Israel to return to its land, she was indigenous from the time of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So that's a Muhammad mitzvah, or a people who attack you. If they attack you, if they draw first blood, then it's a Muhammad mitzvah. You must go to war. And we've learned all of it. We learned about the special Kohen. Aside from the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, there's the high Kohen, there's the Moshuach Milchama, the one who is anointed to lead the troops at war. And we learned this Torah gives a speech that those who have just married or just got engaged, for 1 year, go home. And if you just planted a vineyard, for 1 year, go home. And if you're afraid and faint-hearted, go home. Because most people are not. Nobody's excited in a sense, but to actually have your knees buckling, your knees don't automatically buckle. And those whose knees are buckling, go home. Just go home and don't make the rest of the people lose their morale. And we learned that. And then we learned that there are officers in charge of the hundreds and thousands, and they make their speeches. And you bring out the Ark of the Covenant. There are 2 of them. One stays with the Mishkan, later with the Beit HaMikdash, the tabernacle. And then when they get to Jerusalem, it's the permanent temple. And then there's the other ark that goes with them to battle. We even learned back on a Tuesday 1,000,000 years ago when Israel went to war with the Philistines, and the Philistines actually took possession of the ark in battle. The next thing you knew, their statue in their church, their temple, kept falling down and breaking, and they started getting hit with the golden hemorrhoids, if you remember that. If you don't, yeah, you heard me correctly. The golden hemorrhoids, and there was all of that. And we learned about that. And then they went to war, and you killed everybody. And then you say, you kill everybody? That's not a Western value. That's right. And we've learned Torah does not work on Western values. It's very important. Western values, for example, since 1945, the world sat down and created some Geneva Conventions. And the Geneva Conventions redefined by the Goyim, by the non-Jewish world, the proper rules of war, now rules of war. So since 1945, officially, you can't do a Dresden anymore, the way America knocked Germany out of the war, and the British got knocked out the Germans by combined attacking Dresden till there was no more Dresden. And some other cities, they just destroyed the cities and everybody who lived there. And it destroyed Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Only Sunday class, past Sunday, I played for you again, Harry Truman, letting the Japanese know to have X amount of hours to surrender, or it's all going to hit the fan. Well, the West came up with their Western values of fighting after 1945. So now we have humanitarian rules of war. So what's happened since 1945? Now it's 2025, we're exactly 80 years. Last 80 years, America has not won a war, unless you count Grenada. America has only screwed everything up. America not only has not won a war, but it's a kiss of death to any country that America comes to help. Ronald Reagan once said that the scariest words in the English language are when someone walks into your house and says, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." Those are the scariest words in the English language. But even scarier are when you're a country and Uncle Sam arrives and says, "I'm from America and we're here to help." That's it. There used to be a North Vietnam and a South Vietnam. We came to help South Vietnam, and now if you want to find the South Vietnamese, you have to go to Garden Grove, California, because they're not in Vietnam anymore. We did a great job there. Iran and Iraq, they were killing 500,000 of each other. We came into Iraq. Now they're both busy killing us and Western society, building bombs, and they stopped killing each other. And just go place to place, wherever we go, we're screwed up. Went into Afghanistan. By the time we were done, Israel begs like crazy every year for $3.5 billion of help. We gave the Taliban of Afghanistan more than $7 billion. 2 years of what we give Israel, we gave the Taliban in 1 day. Israel begs. Taliban killed 13 American servicemen and women. And next thing you knew, they had $7 billion of the best stuff that we don't even give Israel. And so wherever we go, Vietnam, Afghanistan, we came into, China was still in play. That's part of the reason that Douglas MacArthur got fired. MacArthur was furious that we're blowing it. We're blowing it and criticizing Omar Bradley and Eisenhower, and we're blowing it. The communists are going to take over. And they fired him because he's attacking the chain of command. And now we look back. The liberals are always big on saying, you're on the wrong side of history. We're on the right side of history. Thing is, you can't really answer that initially because it takes at least 50 years or 100 years for history. So when someone looks at you and says you're on the wrong side of history, if it hasn't been 50 to 70 years, what history? Everyone's going to be dead by the time we can know whether we really were on the wrong side of history. But now, in Vietnam, we were on the wrong side of history. China, we were on the wrong side of history. Everything we touch, we're on the wrong side of history. Israel is a nation that stands alone. Ein am levad ad yishkon. Torah says in Sefer Bamidbar, Book of Numbers, chapter 23, verse 9, that we're going to be alone. We're going to stand alone. Now, that sounds like a curse. Who wants to be alone? Anybody here like to be lonely? To stand alone? It's pretty bad. The only problem is, in interpreting it, that verse was recited by Bilam, the evil prophet, as a blessing. Now, who's he to bless? We know from chapter 23, if you go back and look at it, Book of Numbers, Sefer Bamidbar, Bilam the prophet of Midian was brought into Balak's Moab to curse the Jews. He warned them, I'll do my best. I am a prophet of God, but what happens is I go into a trance. The way I prophesy, I'm not Moses. I'm not Isaiah. But I'm a good prophet. I get it right. God puts me into a trance, and words come out of my mouth and not my words. God's words come out of my mouth while I'm in a trance. So I have to warn you, I'll try to curse, but I don't know what I'm saying. And Balak, the king of Moab, says, let's try our best. And he stands there and he says, he looks at the nation of Israel, Matovu ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanotecha Yisrael. First words in his trance, how goodly are your tents, O people of Jacob. Your tabernacles, O Israel. And Balak goes crazy. He says, you're blessing them. I put to the curtain. He says, I told you, the words come out of my mouth. I'm in a trance. I don't know what did I say? And then he goes on into another one. Hey, am levad ad yishkon. Behold, this is a nation that will stand alone. Now, you would think Balak would come and say, now that's what I'm talking about. Now that's what I'm talking about. But that's not what he said. He said, you made it worse. And Bilam agrees. And the Torah tells us that was a blessing. To this day, it's taught in yeshiva. That's a blessing. So that's how we know it's a blessing to stand alone. So unlike Vietnam, we have to do it differently. Israel does not have the ease and comfort simply to do it American style, stupid, and just throw everything we got. We have 300 million people. We have more money than anyone can imagine, also more debt, but we have the money, and we have the assets, and we have the weapons. And America, we just throw it at them. We're at war, just throw all the men we have, and throw all the weapons we have, and the odds are we're going to win, as long as we don't follow the rules of war that were made only in the last 40 years to prevent us from winning. But if we would just fight like normal people, we would always win because we have an indefinite supply of soldiers. Israel doesn't have the luxury of being America quality stupid. Again, America, we spent $350 million, which in today's numbers is $15.7 billion. $15.7 billion, and 5,600 American lives were taken to build the Panama Canal. And then we gave it to the Panamanians, who partly gave access to China. So we spent $15 billion, lost 5,600 people, and Jimmy Carter gave them the canal. A man, a plan, a canal, an idiot. And what ended up happening is we gave it up. That's how America does it. We went into Begin. Begin didn't have the time and luxury to do it. America quality stupid. He had to take out the nuclear reactor, so he did. And then Reagan, and I'm a conservative, you know that. And if you're a conservative, I'm gonna love Reagan. But Reagan also, if you really look between the lines and you're honest, Reagan was not the friend of Israel. We tell everyone else, because we want to tell people America's always been on Israel's side. It's good PR, but it's not true. Truman was not on Israel's side when he recognized Israel. He was not on Israel's side. He embargoed weapons to Israel during the War of Independence. And Reagan condemned, just look it up on Google, Reagan condemned Begin for taking out the Iraqi nuclear reactor. Sure as heck was a good thing for America when Norman Schwarzkopf was attacking Iraq later. It was really nice that Saddam Hussein did not have a nuclear reactor, huh? But when Begin took him out, Reagan attacked it. And then Reagan showed Israel, now we'll show you how to do it. You don't know how to handle the Muslim cutthroats in Lebanon. Look what happened in Shatila Sabra. We'll send the Marines. We'll show you how to do it. And a few weeks later, 241 American Marines were blown up. And what did America do? America could afford to cut and run. America did not get even. America did not strategically. America just ran away, came back to America. And again, I love America. I'm a big American patriot. Love Reagan, love Trump, but I can't help it. It's like Bill. I'm like Bill. I'm not a good guy who's a role model, but I tell the truth. So Israel does not have the luxury of condemning itself for bombing nuclear reactors that are aiming to destroy them. They have to do what they have to do. So while Macron and Starmer and all of them are trying to stop Israel, and Trump is trying to have it both ways, Israel did what they had to do. And they knew what it would be. And look what they did. Very important to notice. They knew, I have to admit, I'm smart. I didn't know this. Didn't occur to me. Maybe if I had been in a situation room with everyone else, I would have figured it out right away too. But it never occurred to me, if you take out their nuclear stuff, and you even could do it in one day, the next day they'll take out your country. You have to be ready the day that you do that to take out all of their offensive weapons, all their ballistic missiles. You have to be ready on the same day to take out all of their drones. You have to be ready on the same day to take out all of their SAM, as surface to air missiles, SAM, surface air missiles. You have to be ready to take them all out so you can take control of the sky. You have to be ready at the same exact minute to take out their 10, 15 leading generals and commanders. And it's got to be all at once. If you do any of those things first, then you've tipped them off to be ready for all the other things. So if you hit the nuclear reactors, all the commanders go into hiding. And if you hit the commanders, then all the planes go into hiding. They move the planes around. So it's got to, all at once, you got to kill 12 people in their homes, and all their anti-aircraft missiles, and all their anti-personnel missiles, and all their drones, and all their nuclear this. It's got to all happen in an hour. How do you do that? So that means you have to actually have people positioned in Iran. And you don't do it overnight. Can't suddenly have a plane, an El Al plane, come into Iran the day before. They had people for a year living in Iran. And they had Iranians, non-Jews, who want to see that government come down as internal spies, the way we had in Afghanistan. And then the most important thing of all, do you or don't you publicly acknowledge the miracles of God Almighty? And most Israelis do not. Half of the country do, but the leaders do not. So Netanyahu, for example, gets up and he makes a 30-minute speech about our great soldiers, and they are heroic and brave. They are. And our great generals, most of them are. And our great Shin Bet, internal security, some of whom are great. And our great Mossad, some of whom are great. And then at the very, 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 very end of a 30-minute speech, giving credit to everybody, he'll throw in something like Baruch Hashem. He'll say one Baruch Hashem or Be'ezrat Hashem, Yachad Ninatzeach. With God's, but that's sort of like an American president talking. They always end the speech after taking full credit for the next election. They always end the speech. So may God bless you all. May God bless the United States of America. And those are not, in most cases, religious statements. They're just politically good statements. Those are not statements by people who are devoutly Christian. And may God bless the United States. They throw that in like an ink stamp on your return address envelope. Don't forget to say, and to end it with, and may God bless the United States of America. And that's what they do with Israel. And what we really need are leaders to say, look what God hath wrought. Ma pa'al Hashem, what hath God wrought? Look what he, W-R-O-U-G-H-T, what he has done. Because without God, every one of those things would be hitting an Israeli hospital. Why not? Every single one of those Iranian things could have tucked out 10 times as many people. It is a miracle how many of those bombs miss. They obviously can hit. It's not like they're random. They can hit a hospital. They were able to hit the Kiryat, which is like the Israeli Pentagon. They were able to hit other targets, and yet they've missed 90% of the target. Either they get blown up. It's God's miracles. Everything is God's miracles. That the Iranian internal services were not able to figure out that there were people in Iran working for Israel and that they had all of that ready, that all the generals, that what happened with the beepers. After the fact, the beepers, the walkie-talkies, all it took is one guy to notice there's something funny about these beepers. There's something funny. And after the beepers that nobody thought the next day, I wonder if the walkie-talkies are safe. Nobody thought about it. It's God's miracle. And Netanyahu chose the day to attack based on a report from the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, that for the first time they could confirm that Iran is back to enriching the plutonium for nuclear bombs, and they're just a few weeks away. Netanyahu never gave thought to the idea that by attacking that day, based on what the IAEA said, it also, by coincidence, was the day of the G7 meetings. So they were going to hand out their resolution on that day. And Macron was going to announce French recognition of an Arab country between Jordan and the Mediterranean on that day. And because the war started, Macron could not make his announcement. And then Trump went home for the war, and the whole G7 meant nothing. So I want to thank you all very much for being here. I'm going to start stuff now. But I also wanted to be, for those of you that are not with us on Sundays, and for those of you who otherwise we will meet this Sunday, then not for the next 4 weeks. We will meet every Tuesday and Thursday. Thank you for being here. We have a wonderful turnout, as usual, for Thursday nights. This is our usual turnout. And I'm grateful that I did not drive anybody away with this introduction, but I thought it was, under the circumstances, very important. Let us begin. God bless everybody, and God bless the state of Israel, and God bless his holy nation. Okay. In 1936, Adolf Hitler invaded Czechoslovakia. And there was concern that he's taking Czechoslovakia, and then he's going to take something else and something. He's going to conquer all of Europe. He's a madman and intends to conquer all of Europe. The foreign minister of England, I don't know if he was the prime minister or the foreign minister, Neville Chamberlain. This is before Churchill. He may have been the prime minister. I don't know. But Neville Chamberlain flew to Germany to meet with Hitler. The concern was this guy's going to try to conquer every country. And they made an agreement. If Britain, France, and all of Europe would allow Hitler to keep Czechoslovakia, conquer, and basically wipe out the country of Czechoslovakia, Hitler would agree, no more war. And Chamberlain came back to England and announced, I have brought peace in our time. And this is exactly what Macron and Starmer and, frankly, the United States Democrat Party, except for John Fetterman and Richie Torres. That's what these people are. The sound will come on soon. Imagine living in a country where that was on one side. And then on the other side, Neville Chamberlain. Imagine driving in a limousine and there's a gazillion people with swastikas. This is a video, a film that showed in movie theaters as an opening before the main attraction. You know, now you go to a movie theater and you have to watch 30 minutes of commercials for the upcoming movies. They used to show like a 5-minute newsreel. And that's how people got their news, because you did not have television the way you have it now back in the 1930s, and all news stations or any news stations. And so you got your news at the movie theater. And Pathé was the British newsreel company, and that's why they played the British national anthem. So you've got the swastikas, and you've got the Union Jacks, representing the heads of state. That's Neville Chamberlain waving his hat. That was a famous thing of his. He would always wave his hat.
Down the bright, straight road towards a new understanding in Europe. And so at Hitler's Munich headquarters, the agreement that has made the biggest headlines since the armistice. Let no man say that too high a price has been paid for the peace of the world until he has searched his own soul and found himself willing to risk war and the lives of those nearest and dearest to him. Let no man criticize the bargain that the statesmen of Britain and France have struck until he has attempted to add up the total price that might have had to be paid for any other settlement, a price in death and destruction. That price will not be paid. There will be peace.
You got that? Let that sink in. 1936.
It's the greatest diplomatic triumph of modern time. The scene changes to London as Downing Street expresses the nation's gratitude also to the lady who shares the Prime Minister's hopes and fears when Mrs. Chamberlain comes out for a walk in the park.
Okay, so
and the Prime Minister comes home.
Chamberlain was
home
the Prime
to an
Minister.
empire filled with joy.
And it's important again to, later on, people say, I never said that. I never said this was a good deal. I never said it would be, well, it's caught on video. You can't undo it.
Joy and relief, home to a welcome that he will never forget.
These are the same British people who tried to prevent Israel from coming into life and existence in 1948, and the same British people under whom Keir Starmer and David Lammy, that foreign minister, the despicable person, have been attacking Israel since. Same Brits.
I want to say that the settlement of the Czechoslovakian problem, which has now been achieved, is, in my view, only the prelude to a larger settlement in which all Europe may find peace. This morning, I had another talk with the German Chancellor, Herr Hitler. And here is the paper which bears his name upon it as well as mine. Some of you perhaps have already heard what it contains, but I would just like to read it to you. We, the German Führer and Chancellor, and the British Prime Minister have had a further meeting today and are agreed in recognizing that the question of Anglo-German relations is of the first importance for the two countries and for Europe. We regard the agreement signed last night and the Anglo-German naval agreement as symbolic of the desire of our two peoples never to go to war with one another again. We are resolved that the method of consultation shall be the method adopted to deal with any other questions that may concern our two countries, and we are determined to continue our efforts to remove possible sources of difference and thus to contribute to assure the peace of Europe.
From Heston, a triumphal progress as Mr. Chamberlain drives to report immediately to His Majesty the King at Buckingham Palace. And in this, perhaps the most historic spot of the Empire's capital, let the people themselves speak what is in their hearts.
Don't ever forget these images if a few weeks from now we have Trump coming forward and saying, I've brought peace in our time. Now, it is possible, and it could be even desirable that the war stop, that Israel bring home all her bombers, stop attacking, and with or without the Ayatollah in power, it is possible that an agreement could be reached by which they either bomb that mountain or they dismantle the nuclear Fordow from the inside under supervision and certification by observers from places like the United States and Israel, namely people we can trust. It is possible that Iran might decide there won't be an Iran, and certainly not an Islamic Republic, unless we do this. It's possible. But if it's anything less than that, simply a piece of paper that's signed by the Supreme Leader and Donald Trump and I've brought peace in our time, just don't forget how we began tonight. And the fact that the whole world hails it, that doesn't mean anything. Don't forget, they all hailed this also. And in a few years, it wasn't hail, but heil.
May he who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, bless the members of Israel's defense forces and its security services, who stand guard over our land and the cities of our God, from the Lebanese border to the Egyptian desert, from the Mediterranean Sea to the approach of the Arabah, and wherever else they are, on land and air and at sea. May the Lord make the enemies who rise against us be struck down before them. May the Holy One, blessed be He, protect and deliver them from all trouble and distress, affliction and illness, and send blessing and success to all the work of their hands. May He subdue our enemies unto them and crown them with deliverance and victory. May there be fulfilled in them the verse, it is the Lord your God who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies to deliver you. And let us say, Amen.
After the speaker speaks, we will recite the verse by verse in Hebrew as we now begin a recital of some Tehillim.
שיר למעלות, אשא עיני אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי.
Shir lama'alot, Esa enai el harim, me'ayin yavo ezri.
עזרי מעם אדוני, עושה שמיים וארץ.
Ezri me'im Adonai, oseh shamayim va'aretz.
אל ייתן למות רגליך,
Al yiten lamot raglecha,
אל ינום שומרך,
al yanum shomrecha.
הנה לא ינום ולא ישן שומר ישראל.
Hine lo yanum v'lo yishan, shomer Yisrael.
אדוני שומרך, אדוני צילך, על יד ימינך.
Adonai shomrecha, Adonai tzilcha al yad yaminecha.
יומם השמש לא יככה, וירח בלילה.
Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka, v'yareach balayla.
אדוני ישמורך מכל רע,
Adonai yishmorcha mikora, yishmor et nafshecha.
ישמור את נפשך. אדוני ישמור צאתך ובואך.
Adonai yishmor tzeitcha uvoecha.
מעתה ועד עולם.
Me'ata v'ad olam. Next we'll recite Psalm 20. Psalm 20. Please, I'll recite and you would follow. Alam natseach mizmor leDavid. Ya'ancha Adonai biyom tzara, yisagevcha Shem Elohei Yaakov Selah. Yishlach ezrecha mikodesh umitzion yisadeka. Yizkor kol minchotecha v'olatcha yidashne selah. Yiten licha chilvavecha v'chol atzatcha yimalei. Niranina bishuatecha, uv'shem Eloheinu nidgol, yimalei Adonai kol mishalotecha. Ata yadati, ki hoshia Adonai mishicho, ya'anehu mishmei kadsho, bigvurot yesha yemino. Ele v'rechev v'ele v'susim v'anachnu b'shem Adonai Eloheinu naskir. Hey makaru v'nafalu v'anachnu kamnu v'nit odad. Adonai Hoshia HaMelech Ya'anenu V'yom Kar'enu. The central pasuk in that prayer, they call on chariots and horses. That's like today the tanks and the airplanes, the fighter bombers. And we call on God. We fight by asking God to protect us.
אלה ברכב, אלה בסוסים, ואנחנו בשם השם נזכיר. אלה ברכב, אלה בסוסים, ואנחנו בשם השם נזכיר. אלה קרו ונפלו, ואנחנו קמנו יסודות. אלה קרו ונפלו, ואנחנו קמנו יסודות. אלה ברכב, אלה בסוסים, ואנחנו בשם השם נזכיר. אלה ברכב, אלה בסוסים, ואנחנו בשם השם נזכיר. אלה קרו ונפלו, ואנחנו קמנו יסודות. אלה קרו ונפלו, ואנחנו קמנו יסודות.
More Iranian missiles were intercepted over Tel Aviv early on Wednesday as the Iran-Israel conflict continued to escalate. According to Associated Press, not long after the latest barrage, the Israeli army said it was conducting a series of strikes in the Tehran area. Israel says its sweeping assault in Iran is necessary to prevent its adversary from getting any closer to building an atomic weapon. Since it began its campaign on Friday, Israeli strikes have killed at least 224 people in Iran. Iran has retaliated by launching some 400 missiles and hundreds of drones at Israel. At least 24 people have been killed in Israel.
Every time you see the fire split, that means it's been hit by an iron dome. Every time you see that split, it's been hit. And it just falls.
Wow, it's falling down.
Every time it lights up, same thing. They're just being shot out of the sky. That's what the Iron Dome. So they're hitting most of them, but there's no room for error. And they'll figure out how to do even better if there is a next time. And this is the city of Tel Aviv. They're aiming for the main secular civilian target after Jerusalem. And that's it, they're just being knocked out of the sky. But that's why you could see that somebody misses, there's just no room for error. The damage it'll do is very great.
Israel's Iron Dome stunned the world as it intercepted some, but not all, of Iran's recent massive barrage of missiles raining down on the Jewish state. The strikes were in retaliation for Israel's preemptive hits earlier in the week on Iran's nuclear facilities. So how exactly does Israel's Iron Dome work? Here's what you need to know. The Iron Dome is a sophisticated defensive umbrella that shoots down rockets aimed at Israel before they reach the ground. It works by calculating the trajectory of the incoming target. Rather than trying for a head-on collision, the radar-guided missiles detonate mid-air, destroying the incoming rocket in its projected path. The Iron Dome is used for short-range, low-tech threats such as rockets, mortars, and drones, but it's not working alone. The Arrow systems are designed to intercept ballistic missiles fired from thousands of miles away, and even those coasting high above in the atmosphere. There's also David's Sling, named after the biblical hero who defeated Goliath. David's Sling is meant to engage shorter-range attacks launched roughly 60 to 120 miles away. For example, if it's a ground-to-ground missile fired from the terror group Hezbollah in Lebanon, that's likely David's Sling.
David's Sling is working all the time. When you have more difficult targets, you hear about ground-to-ground missiles being fired from Lebanon. They are usually engaged by David's Sling, which is very, very effective. It's a big Iron Dome, much bigger than Iron Dome.
As for the Iron Dome, however, Israeli officials have repeatedly said the system is not perfect, with one military official recently saying the shield has an 80 to 90% success rate. That means some missiles are bound to break through. As of Monday, 370 ballistic missiles and hundreds of drones have been fired from Iran, successfully striking 30 sites in Israel over a 4-day period, according to the Israeli Prime Minister's office. The Iron Dome has been in the works for decades. It was officially inaugurated in 2011, but the idea dates back to the Persian Gulf War in 1991. After coming under fire from Iraqi Scud missiles, Israel began honing an anti-missile air defense system with support from its ally, the United States. Then during the 2006 Lebanon War, Israel's offensive failed to fend off extensive Hezbollah rocket fire, so their state-owned defense company, Rafael, was tasked with coming up with a real solution to protect its citizens. Just a few years later, the Iron Dome was born, saving countless lives. Since Friday, June 13th, the death toll in Israel has reached 24, following the Iranian missile strikes on Tel Aviv and Haifa, which also damaged a U.S. embassy. The U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, reported no Americans were injured. The Iron Dome may be a good last defense, but it's far from the only weapon in Israel's arsenal. In October 2024, just before the election, the Biden administration sent Israel our own advanced anti-missile system called THAAD. Then on Friday, June 13th, Uncle Sam helped shoot down Iranian missiles fired at Israel using a U.S. Navy destroyer in the Mediterranean Sea. Israeli combat helicopters and fighter jets also fired air-to-air missiles to destroy drones. As the world worries that an all-out World War III will break out, Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, gave this stern warning. Tehran will pay the price, and soon.
לראשונה נחשפים עכשיו ממדי
Because of what just happened yesterday at the hospital in Negev, there was less attention paid that they also hit the Weitzmann Institute. And Weitzmann Institute is sort of like Israel's MIT. And so they're saying we now have information about this Channel 11, the public broadcaster, and we now have more information about the attack on the Weitzmann Institute.
הרס במכון ויצמן למדע ברחובות, שספג בתחילת השבוע פגיעות ישירות של טילים איראנים.
It was hit directly.
פה מאחוריי
It was hit directly by Iranian missile.
אתם יכולים לראות בעצם ההר הריסות הזה, זאת המעבדה שלי, או מה שנשאר ממנה.
She's saying that's my laboratory where I would work, or what's left of my lab.
בעצם הכל נמחק, הכל.
Everything wiped out.
כך נראה היום המכון לחקר הסרטן.
That particular spot you were looking at that was wiped out was the center of their research on cancer.
פגיעת הטיל הבליסטי לא הותירה ממנו דבר מלבד הריסות. תחתיהן נקברו שנות מחקר ארוכות שכל תכליתן תרומה לאנושות.
זה החזיר אותה.
Underneath those rockets' destruction are the result of years and years of laboratory research fighting various kinds of severe illnesses that were serving humanity.
שנים אחורה, שנות אדם של עבודה נמחקו.
This has taken us, set us back by years of time that people were able to build these facilities and develop them.
במקררים שלנו, בתרביות שלנו, כמות אדירה של דוגמאות של חולים שירדה לטמיון.
בעוד שחלק מהמידע אולי ניתן לשחזור, את הדגימות החשובות מחולי הסרטן שבהן השתמשו במעבדה של פרופסור קרן למחקר קליני, לא ניתן יהיה להשיב.
אני אתן לכם דוגמה אחת, אני חושבת שזה...
While a certain amount of it will be able to be rebuilt more soon, a certain amount is completely lost, including research notes and information, and she's a clinical cancer researcher, spent many years doing it and back to square one apparently. I don't know, I would think they have some of it, stored online in backup copies, I'm sure, but still you could see she's had tremendous attack and what it's done for her.
ממחיש את זה חבר טוב ישראלי שמת מסרטן גרורתי ובעצם רצה לתרום את גופו למדע בשביל שאחרים לא יצטרכו לעבור את מה שהוא עבר, ולנו במעבדה בעצם היה דוגמאות מכל הגרורות שלו מאזורים שונים בגוף. זה ריסורס ייחודי מאוד בשביל באמת ללמוד.
It was a particular person that she knew who donated his body to science. He died of a very unique kind of cancer that was just like outside the typical cancers they've encountered, and they were using tissue from his body for different kinds of research, and this is extraordinary research source that's now lost.
ממנו על סרטן, הכל הלך, הכל נשרף.
הכל נראה פה חרבות, עדיין יש שריפה. ביין אולמן שרוף.
The idea that it's all burned, it's all lost.
הלך הבניין. חצי מכון הרוס, לא מאמין.
Unbelievable.
26 שנה אני פה במכון, חוקרת את מערכת החיסון ומצבים.
She's been working 26 years at Weitzmann Institute, primarily working on immunology issues and cancer-related stuff.
של סרטן, מה קורה עם מערכת החיסון בסרטן. וכן, כל מחקר של שנים נעלם.
גם המעבדה של פרופסור...
I am trying to process a little bit, like, how if you've done all this research all these years, I'm not quite getting how they could say everything they've researched is gone. Modern country that have backup systems. I mean, I have a backup system, so I don't know what that means, but certainly like a body that was donated, let's say, something like that. And talking about how labs and just wiped out completely. They were aiming at health resource and health research, as opposed to what Israel does. If she has to attack a place like that, she's never going after the place. She's going after the hamas people underneath.
עידית שחר נהרסה לחלוטין ואיתה מחקרים בשלבים מתקדמים.
זה מזעזע. תראה, אצלי העבודה בשלבים כאלה שכבר פתחנו חברה בארצות הברית שאמורה בעצם לטפל בחולי סרטן. החברה קיימת, אבל אנחנו היינו אמורים פה להמשיך את המחקר כדי שאפשר יהיה...
We had set up a related satellite business or research company in the United States, and we were working together and
בטיפול באנשים, וזה נעצר.
It's all lost.
מלבד המכון לחקר הסרטן, ספג פגיעה ישירה גם בניין הכימיה החדש, שהיה בשלבי הכנות אחרונים לקראת אכלוס, ונהרס כליל על כל הציוד המתקדם שכבר היה בו. למרבה המזל, איש לא נפגע.
עיקר התחומים שנפגעו זה תחומי הסרטן, כמו הבניין הזה.
It's a miracle, they say, that nobody actually was hurt directly by that rocket fire. And we'll go on to the next one because of time factor. You get the idea.
תחומים של אימונולוגיה, מדעי הסביבה וקיימות, והרבה מהמקומות האלה יש לנו ידע. יש לנו ידע שנעלם, וזה מה שמכון ויצמן עושה. כן, אנחנו בביזנס של לייצר ידע. אגב, לא לטובת מכון ויצמן, או לא רק לטובת מדינת ישראל, לטובת האנושות כולה. אז
And the irony, he says, is that what the Weitzmann Institute does is not merely for the benefit of the Weitzmann Institute or Israel, but the entire world benefits from this kind of research that they do. And I mean, I know that I lost my wife, Ellen Zichron Livracha, to a very unique form of cancer. It's not unknown, but very unique, glioblastoma. And they don't have a real solution for glioblastoma other than to extend life between 2 to 5 years. And thank God Ellen was more the 5-year side than the 2-year side. Or I'm sorry, 3 months to 5 years. And they said it could be over in 3 months, and she got as much as 5 years, good quality 5 years. And they're trying to work on it. And it's not just 1 or 2 places. All over the world, they share notes with each other. And you take out something like this, it's not that he's saying that it's glioblastoma, but the idea that they research stuff. The Arabs are quite a piece of work, and I'm generalizing on purpose. This is like, as I said at the very beginning tonight, start accusing Jews of genocide. It's so outside our frame of reference. And you begin to realize it's a way that they show and project what they're thinking. To them to destroy, send everything back to the Middle Ages, that's okay.
הפגיעה הזאת תשפיע על העולם. פחות תרופות, פחות פתרונות, וזה כואב.
טקס פתיחת מכון ויצמן ברחובות.
מכון ויצמן נחשב לאחד ממוסדות המחקר המדעיים המובילים בעולם. הוא נוסד לפני יותר מ-90 שנה, ומאז אחראי לשורת תגליות פורצות דרך, בדיקות מי שפיר, תרופות חדשות.
I'm just going to move on because of time, but now it goes into the history of the Weitzmann Institute and how it has grown to be one of the world's leading research centers on things like cancer and stuff. And this is the other big one that was hit in Soroka Hospital in Beersheva that covers the southern region of Israel.
הלך סורוקה, בראש שלי אמא שלי הלך סורוקה.
תראו את גבול הברצים, תראו את האנשים, תראו את האנשים. תראו.
The Hebrew language Israeli media was jammed with stories yesterday about a guy, I forgot his first name, his last name is Bar Simon-Tov, and he's the Director General of the Ministry of Health. It would be the equivalent in the United States of being the Director General under Robert Kennedy and his in the health department. And this guy, one day before, got some bug up him that it just hit him that morning on the way to work that he wants Soroka Hospital, this guy probably works out of Jerusalem, that he wants Soroka Hospital in Beersheva to move their entire surgery ward on like the 6th floor, to move them down a floor. He was researching and reading stuff, and it just became a one-day obsession that the surgery ward in Soroka on the 6th floor, or whatever floor it was, is exposed, and they have to move down. And they spent the entire day before moving down one flight. And that one crazy thing, they say, saved scores of lives because all the damage hit the floor of the surgery ward. And although it destroyed the building, but as far as not a single person or something was killed. And maybe by now one, but they say this guy saved dozens and dozens of lives by putting out a thing the day before. I'm ordering everybody in Soroka to move down one floor. Unbelievable.
אימא'לה, מה קורה בסורוקה? טירוף מוחלט. הכל שבור. זה לא אמיתי מה קורה פה.
What happened here in Soroka, the person was saying, nobody really can grasp. It's just impossible to grasp what happened here.
יש נזק בבניין הירוק הזה.
Just the day before.
They're targeting civilians because they're a criminal regime. They're the arch terrorists of the world. They want to have nuclear terrorism, which will put the entire world under nuclear blackmail, and they would use these weapons. That's what the Ayatollah Khameini says that he would do. He would use these weapons to wipe Israel off the map. Well, he's not going to. We're not going to let him. And we're in the process of achieving a tremendous victory.
And remember, Israel not only is knocking these things out, but they killed the 11 leading nuclear scientists in Iran were all killed that same night. So to the degree that Iran would have to rebuild, all the people that were involved in building it, they're all dead now. Like the whole brain trust is gone. You'll note that just after Israel, countries like America, Britain, France, they're next. And Israel basically has done the dirty work to protect all of these cowards who are too afraid to have taken the initiative, even though they're stronger technically, but they're not strong. And they have more money, and they have all kinds of things Israel doesn't have, and population, but they're cowards. So in the end, they're the ones who would be destroyed. And none of them is there to help. None of them, other than America, is helping shoot down the Iranian missiles that are launched at Israel. None of them. They're all just meeting in Canada to condemn Israel and tell Israel what to do. The only good news I would say out of all of this is that since it started on June 13, and for 1 week, No one's bothering anybody about Hamas and whatever Israel's doing in Gaza. Everybody's too busy watching Iran to really bother Israel. So right now, if they are having a famine, which they're not, and starving to death, or if Israel's doing whatever they're doing, this is the time to do it in Gaza because no one's watching. No one's minding the store. And this you may have seen or heard about. This was the nightly news on Iran, where she's really in a very agitated way telling everyone, don't believe anything you're hearing. We're doing fine. Israel is not in control of the skies. Don't believe what they're telling you.
Oh, chilling video there. Caught on camera, Israel bombed Iran's national broadcasting company today. You just saw the reaction from the anchor live there on the air. Now, day 4 of the war between these two countries, and along with that bomb attack, Israel also sent a stark warning to the people in Iran's capital today.
The message is for hundreds of thousands of people in Tehran to get out ahead of new strikes. Here's Richard Engel with more.
Israel's air defenses are state-of-the-art, but not perfect. Iranian missiles are increasingly getting through. The Israeli coastal city of Haifa took a direct hit, setting a refinery ablaze. An apartment complex near Tel Aviv was also struck. Parts of Petah Tikva, a small city near Tel Aviv, were badly damaged. Israel is also expanding its assaults beyond Iran's nuclear sites, military leaders and scientists, targeting the Iranian government and infrastructure across the country. Medical officials say more than 220 people have been killed in Iran, including many civilians. Some Iranians are starting to flee Tehran, expecting a drawn-out war. President Trump, whose administration was in the advanced stages of negotiations with Iran when Israel attacked, did not appear to be frustrated by Netanyahu's preemptive war.
Sometimes they have to fight it out, but we're going to see what happens. I think there's a good chance there'll be a deal.
And there are growing suggestions President Trump knew more about Israel's plans than Washington is letting on. NBC News confirming President Trump stopped Netanyahu from assassinating Iran's supreme leader.
Meanwhile,
Fox News, Netanyahu, who called on Iranians to rise up while Israel attacks, said regime change is a possibility and brushed off calls for an immediate ceasefire.
The issue here is not de-escalation. The issue here is not ceasefire. The issue here is stopping those things that will threaten our survival.
Thanks, Kenny. Just to clarify the president's statement just now, when he says that he'll make a decision in the next 2 weeks, is he saying that if Iran does not come back to the negotiating table within the next 2 weeks, that the president will strike?
The president is saying that he will make a decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks. It's very clear and direct.
And is he seeing any signs of progress? He obviously is holding out hope for negotiations, but is he seeing any inklings of progress that give him that hope that talks are still possible?
Well, that's why he said in the statement that I just read for all of you, based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, he will make that decision within the next 2 weeks.
What makes him think there's still a substantial chance is my question.
I'm not going to get into the reasoning and the rationale the president believes that, but that's his position, and he will make a decision within the next 2 weeks.
Caroline.
Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. President Trump has said previously in regard to Russia, he's used this phrase about 2 weeks several times in terms of like, we expect like a 2-week deadline and then you give another 2-week deadline. How can we be sure that he's going to stick to this one on making a decision on Iran?
Well, in those deadlines, as you've seen in respect to Russia, Ukraine, might I add, these are two very different, complicated global conflicts, as you know, that the president inherited from our previous incompetent president in the weakness of the previous administration. And the president has spent a tremendous amount of time and effort cleaning up these crises that were caused by the last administration's just complete dereliction of duty on the world stage and American weakness. Now we have
אבותינו, אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, הוא יברך צבא הגנה לישראל. הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל. הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל. העומדים על משמר ארצנו והרי אלוהינו, מהלבנון ועד מדבר מצרים ומן הים הגדול עד לבוא הערבה, ביבשה אדוני את אויבינו הקמים עלינו ניגפים לפניהם. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור ויציל את חיילינו מכל צרה וצוקה ומכל נגע ומחלה, וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם. ידבר שונאינו תחתיהם ויעטרם בכתר ישועה ובעטרת ניצחון, ויקוים בהם הכתוב כי אדוני אלוהיכם הולך עמכם להילחם לכם עם אויביכם, להושיע אתכם ולא
Let me we're going to close up now, but let me very quickly just do a little itsy bitsy text so that we have that together, and then we're going to call it. And I've already explained at the outset what the plan is going forward. We'll be meeting each week. Just want to remind you, let's do this real fast, give it 3 minutes. 4th chapter of the book of Judges, Shoftim. God surrendered the Jews to the king Yavin of Canaan, who reigned in Hatzor. His commander was Sisera. The Israelites cried out to God, for he had 900 iron chariots, and he oppressed Israel ruthlessly for 20 years. Deborah, the wife of Lepidot, was a prophet. She led Israel at the time. She used to sit under the palm of Deborah, between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim, and the Israelites would go to her for decisions. She summoned Barak, son of Avinoam of Kadesh, in Naphtali, the tribal area, and said to him, the Eternal, the God of Israel, has commanded, go, march to Mount Tabor, take with you 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zvulun, and I will draw Sisera, Yavin's army commander, God says, with his chariots and his troops toward you up to the Wadi Kishon, and I will deliver him into your hands. That place is called Nachal Kishon, the Kishon brook. Barak said, if you will go with me, I'll go. If not, I will not go. Very well, I'll go with you, she answered. However, there will be no glory for you in the course you are taking, for then God will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman. So Deborah went with Barak to Kadesh. Barak mustered Zebulun and Naphtali, the tribes. At Kadesh, 10,000 men marched up after him, and Deborah, he had asked, as she did, also went up with him. Now Hever the Kenite had separated from other Canaanites, a separate nation, neither one of the forbidden tribes, nor, on the other hand, Israel herself. He had separated, and descendants of Chovav, father-in-law of Moshe, and had pitched at Yitro. They were descended from Yitro. Moshe had married Zipporah. Yitro was his father-in-law. He was also a Kenite. He pitched his tent. Sisera was informed that Barak, son of Avinoam, had gone up to Mount Tabor. So Sisera ordered all his chariots, 900, all the troops he had, to move to the Nachal Kishon. Deborah said to Barak, up. This is the day on which God will deliver Sisera into your hands. God marches before you. Barak charged on Mount Tabor, followed by 10,000 men. God threw Sisera and all his chariots and army into a panic before the onslaught of Barak. Sisera jumped out of his chariot. He left all his men behind to be slaughtered, and he was the only survivor fleeing on foot. As Barak pursued the chariots and soldiers all the way back to their original base of the Canaanites, all of Sisera's soldiers fell by the sword. Not one was left. He left his entire army to be destroyed. Only he survived, and he fled by foot to the tent of Yael, wife of Hever the Kenite, for there was a kind of neutrality whereby King Yavin, the Canaanite, Israel was at war with King Yavin and his general Sisera, and the family of Hever the Kenite, they were kind of okay with both sides. So like Switzerland, we're neutral. Yael came out to greet Sisera and said, come in here, don't be afraid. So he entered a tent. He was running for his life. Last survivor covered him with a blanket, said to her, please let me have some water, I'm thirsty. She opened a skin of milk and gave him some to drink. It's a flask, a canteen. Covered him again. He said, stand at the entrance. If anybody comes and asks you if anybody's here, tell them no. Then Yael, wife of Hever, took a tent pin and grasped the hammer, the mallet. When he was fast asleep from exhaustion, she tiptoed to him, drove the tent pin through his temple. He lay on the floor or bed or whatever, hammock, and he was on his side, exposing one of his two temples. And a tent pin is big and heavy, and how she did this is a miracle unto itself. And with the mallet or hammer, it says she banged the tent pin with one blow into his temple, and it killed him. Barak finally arrives. Yael went out to greet him and said, come, I know who you're looking for. I'll show you a man looking for. He went inside with her, and there Sisera lay dead with a pin in his temple. That is the tent pin. On that day, God subdued King Yavin of Canaan. The hand of the Israelites bore harder and harder on King Yavin of Canaan until they destroyed him. We will continue Thursday night next week with the commentaries and the story to take it forward, and then from there we'll go to the other parts of our syllabus on this subject of the woman using her sexual attraction to bring him in, and there's more between the lines of what we just read. We'll do that next week as well. Have a wonderful Shabbat, and say prayers every day, Psalm 121 and Psalm 20, at the very least, from home. God hears prayers everywhere. Psalm 121 and Psalm 20 every day, and probably doing it in your shul as well. And we'll meet, God willing, on Sunday, and then no more Sundays for about a month, all in your emails. And we will continue meeting on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We will continue meeting. Shabbat Shalom.